Denali Majesto's The Slip Through Time, performed for you by Amanda Pine. Chapter 1. What Happened in Tikal. A golden thread of sunlight squeezes through the solitary crack in the stone wall and falls upon Itzel's closed eyelid. The eye beneath quivers back and forth, struggling between a dream and the waking world. Suddenly, both the raven-haired girl's eyes burst open. She sits upright on her mat and glances around the room. "Oh, no, 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 no," she moans. The other mats laid about the floor are empty. The rest of her family has already awoken and begun their day, while she, lazy little Itzel as her older brother calls her, has overslept. Again. And today of all days. Itzel hurriedly throws her body-length traje over her head. After wrestling to fit the garment around herself properly, she bursts through the woolen curtain that divides the tiny bedroom from the living quarters of the small home. No one is there. Her fears are confirmed. The others have left for the city of Tikal. Itzel steps outside into the brilliant sunshine. The cool air promises a more temperate day. This will be a nice break from the sweltering heat of the past weeks. She gazes northward and sees the great stone peaks of Tikal's temples looming above and beyond the emerald-green jungle canopy. They stand proud, those immovable guardians of both gods and people. They are not far. Perhaps if she leaves now, she can catch up to her family. "Itzel, my wee chicken," speaks a low, airy voice behind her. She whirls about with surprise. The kind, dark eyes and wrinkled brown face of her grandmother are smiling up at her. "Good morning, Meme," Itzel replies, bowing her head in respect. Immediately returning to her panicked state, she asks, "Are they all gone? To Tikal?" The old woman chuckles and says, "Indeed they have, Itzel. Those who desire much sleep miss out on much life. And you, my Itzel, desire more sleep than anyone I have ever known." Itzel hangs her head, unable to hide her disappointment. For many nights, since the elders announced the upcoming festival, she has been anxiously waiting to spend the day in Tikal. Itzel loves the busy streets of the city, the excited people, the towering buildings, the vendors in their wooden booths hawking their goods. And what sorts of extra sights and sounds and smells might she experience on a day like today? But her parents have forbidden her traveling the jungle path to Tikal by herself. Her brother was allowed to make the journey when he was 10 years old, but Itzel is only 9. This means she is stuck in her little village of Kuzkal for the day. Instead of street performers and dancers wearing feathered costumes and headdresses, her only company will be Grandmother Jacques. "Do cheer up, little Itzel," Jacques says, grabbing the girl's hand and patting it gently. "They will return in the afternoon. We will feast together with all of Kuzikal, and then, before the sun goes down, they will bring you to Tikal for the sunset celebration." "Yes, grandmother," murmurs Itzel. She is cheered little by her grandmother's words. Jacques' affectionate grin widens, and she says, "Your bad luck is my good fortune, as it turns out. I am in great need of 2 strong young hands to assist in making tonight's wail." Itzel's eyes brighten. Wail, her grandmother's famous tortillas, have been a family secret for ages. Often, the whole village gathers around Grandmother Jacques' wail, and the people feast until their bellies are full and round. Jacques doesn't wait for a response. She merely chuckles and motions for Itzel to follow her, exclaiming, "Come with me, my dear Winchikin. Today you take an important step toward your womanhood. Ha ha!" Itzel bows her head as she passes through the low doorway into Grandmother Jacques' home. This hut is smaller than her family's. Her grandfather once lived here when Itzel was very small, but he has been gone a long time. One day he went for a hunt in the jungle and never returned. "What do you need help with, Meme?" Itzel asks. Pointing at a low table containing various clay jars and bowls, Jacques answers, "My ancient bones have lost their strength. I cannot grind the izim for our tortillas as when I was young. Today the job belongs to you." Itzel brushes her black hair from her nut-brown face and nods reverently. But in her heart, she wishes more than ever that she could be in Tikal with her family. She silently vows that from now on, she will wake even before the roosters. According to her grandmother's instructions, Itzel uses a smooth stone to mash the azim, the boiled maize, into a pasty dough. When each batch is finished, she and her grandmother roll the dough into fist-sized balls, which they set aside. Later, Grandmother Jacques will cook them over the fire, and the village will eat the tortillas steaming fresh. As Itzel works, a question arises in her mind, and she asks, "Grandmother, why is there a festival today? It isn't one of our customary celebrations." "The rumors are flying, of course," Jacques replies from the comfort of her chair. "The most reliable ones claim it is because Kinchi Ahau is upset." "Upset? Why do they think that?" Itzel asks. She doesn't know much about the sun god, but she is aware that one wouldn't want to upset Kinchi Ahau. Jacques leans forward in her chair and her eyes narrow. She lowers her tone like one telling a dark secret as she says, "The chiefs who study the sky say the sun has been acting strangely. Some days it is too hot for this time of year. Other days it is too cold. Perhaps Kinchi Ahau is heartbroken. Perhaps he is angry. Some even believe it means the gods may come and bring judgment soon." Itzel holds her breath. She has never seen her grandmother so serious before. Suddenly, Jacques erupts into more laughter and says, "Or maybe the chiefs are bored and want a party. That answer seems far more likely to me." Itzel offers a meager grin. Her grandmother never seems to believe much of what the chiefs or shamans tell them. Itzel, on the other hand, wonders if it's possible that the gods will visit during the festival. And, if they did, would they be pleased to bless the city? Or would they find fault with the people of Tikal and punish them? When Itzel is finished mashing the last of the izhim, she sets the small grinding bowl on the table. The dough's earthy aroma is already causing her mouth to water, and the promise of wa'il stuffed with fragrant avocados, crunchy chiles, and roasted meat replaces every fear she has about the gods. A shadow falls across the room. Somebody is standing in the doorway, blocking the sunlight. "Can Itzel come and play?" a timid voice asks. The girl turns to see Apo, the neighbor boy 1 year younger than her. He spins a ball from side to side in his hands. "For the moment she is busy helping me," Jacques answers warmly. "But she will be done shortly, and when she is, she may play to her heart's fullness." "Are you making wa'il?" Apo inquires hopefully, peeking at the dough balls on the table. Grandmother Jacques winks at him. "You'll find out later, boy. Now run along. Itzel will be finished soon." "What do I still need to do?" Itzel asks once Apo has run off. "The only thing left," Jacques slyly replies, "is the small matter of our most important ingredient." Then, with a laugh, she adds, "Well, the most important besides the tortillas themselves, ha ha!" Her grandmother's infectious mood brings a smile to Itzel's own face. "And what is that?" she asks. "The unuwa, dear granddaughter, the avocados!" exclaims Jacques, pinching her granddaughter's cheeks. "Where are they?" "Still on the tree, you silly girl. The ones on the lower branches have been picked already. I need you to scramble up higher to get them for me," Jacques says, thrusting an empty basket into Itzel's hands. With a girlish giggle, Itzel hurries out the door, carrying the woven basket. The avocado grove lies at the furthest edge of Kuzakal. She doesn't know how long her family has tended the hundreds of handsome trees, only that her grandfather did so before her father, her Yum. She also knows that their avocados, which grow in the shadow of the great jungle trees, are renowned throughout Tikal as superior to all others. As she walks, the breeze carries with it the tormenting echoes of the festival in the distance. The cheerful voices of men and women and children, the melodic singing of a dozen voices, the clamoring of instruments, they seem to taunt her, as if aware that she is missing out. Itzel puts it out of her mind as she climbs a tree and begins harvesting its fruit. One by one, she drops the avocados to the ground below, trying to land them in her basket. Only 2 hit their target. The others land nearby. Once she has picked enough to fill her basket, she clambers down the tree, gathers the avocados, and begins the short journey back toward the meager cluster of buildings that make up Kuzakal. She stops abruptly. Puzzled, she looks toward the towers of Tikal. Something is wrong. She knows it. Every voice and sound of merry celebration has ended in sudden silence. Or, perhaps, she tells herself, the wind changed and is dragging the noise elsewhere. Still, Itzel can't escape the dread feeling that things are not as they should be. A chill crawls down her spine and she picks up her pace. Re-entering her grandmother's hut, Itzel places the basket on the table. "Meme?" she calls, glancing around the room. Her brow is furrowed with worry. Grandmother Jacques' chair is empty. Itzel dashes to the bedroom curtain and pokes her head through to the other side. Except for the solitary cot on the floor, the small room is empty. "Grandmother Jacques," the girl cries, panic rising in her throat. "Where are you?" There is no reply. Tears well in her eyes, her stomach feels sick, and her breath is tight and shallow. Itzel is about to cry out again when she hears a whimper from somewhere outside. Tortillas and avocados forgotten, she dashes from the house and pricks up her ears, listening for the source of the sound. The cries are coming from Apo's hut. Itzel sprints there as fast as her legs will carry her. When she steps inside, the first thing she sees is a jar smashed on the ground. A puddle sits among the shards, creating a muddy paste in the hut's dirt floor. A stifled sob draws Itzel's attention to the far corner. There, with his knees pulled close to his chest, Apo is weeping. But his cries are not those born of sorrow. They are cries of fear and shock. "Apo," Itzel says soothingly. The boy glances up at her as she kneels beside him. He wipes the tears from his dirty face and tries to look braver. "What happened, Apo?" asks Itzel. She is afraid to hear the answer. The boy sniffles and shakes his head, unable to find the right words. After a few deep breaths, he speaks with a trembling voice. "They disappeared. My mother, my sister." "They disappeared?" a bewildered Itzel repeats. "What do you mean?" "One moment, my mother was standing right there," Apo explains, pointing at the broken jar in the middle of the room. "Then she disappeared, like a spirit, into nothing. Her jar fell to the ground and broke. I turned to shield my little sister from the shards, but she was gone too." Like the pottery, Apo's brave composure shatters and he breaks into hysterics. He seizes Itzel's arm and pulls her close, shrieking, "Where did they go, Itzel? Where are they?" Itzel doesn't answer right away. Instead, she pulls the boy closer and makes soothing noises to calm him. Only when his sobs have sputtered and died does she finally say, "Grandmother Jacques is missing also, and I do not know where she went." "What do we do?" moans Apo. His eyes are bloodshot and teary and filled with hopelessness. "We will wait here until our families return from Tikal," Itzel replies. "Maybe they will have answers." Itzel sits next to Apo and places a comforting arm around his shoulder. But her sick feeling is growing worse, for she remembers the sudden silencing of the city. How long they sit without speaking, Itzel doesn't know. She becomes lost in her own imaginative fears as she wonders what has happened to everyone. Before long, the sitting and waiting grow impossible for her. The need for answers is too great in her heart. "Come with me," she says. Realizing that Apo has fallen asleep, she nudges him awake. "We should search Kuzakal. Perhaps there are others still here." Apo gives her a feeble nod, and they stand up together. Kuzakal is a tiny village. There are only a handful of huts. It doesn't take long for Itzel and Apo to search them all. But they do not find a single soul. The sun is high in its race along the sky when Itzel declares, "We must take the jungle path to Tikal. Maybe we will find my family or your father there." Apo seems nervous about walking the path by themselves, but he swallows the lump in his throat and nods his agreement. Hand in hand, the two children leave the safety of the village clearing and enter beneath the shadow of the great jungle trees. The path is easy to follow. Itzel has walked it 100 times with her parents and brother, but never alone. Never with only Apo at her side. The brave girl keeps her eyes moving and her mind sharp. Many dangers exist in the jungle, both animal and human. She realizes that whatever caused her grandmother and Apo's mother and sister to vanish could now be stalking them also. The idea unsettles her, but not nearly as much as the absolute silence which has settled over Tikal. She hoped they would hear sounds of life as they drew nearer, but not even one lonely voice reaches her ears. As they round the final curve in the jungle path, the city opens before them, confirming Itzel's worst fears. There is no one. The streets are deserted. "Where are they?" Appa whispers miserably. "Maybe we have to look for them," replies Itzel, her own voice faltering. "Maybe they gathered at the center of Tikal for something." Apo says nothing. It is clear he doesn't believe this to be the case. The children walk deeper into the city and its silence. In the marketplaces, they find booths finely displayed with foods and trinkets and pottery and other merchandise, but there is no one to sell them. In the squares where there should be dancers and music and hundreds of onlookers, there are only stray dogs, taking advantage of the unguarded food. For hours they walk up and down the streets of the city until the sun is low over the horizon, but there is never any change. Tikal, one of the great cities of the Mayan people, is empty. Except for one young boy and one young girl, all its people have disappeared, and they left not a single clue where they might have gone.